Greetings, friends. My name is Paul Thompson, and I am here with my good friend Steve Autrey, along with a couple of visitors and guests that you're going to recognize today. Today, as we make a transition from one sermon series to the next, we thought it would be helpful today to introduce to you and talk about the idea of ordained ministry and the path of ministry in the United Methodist Church. We don't talk enough about that, and I thought today would be an opportune time to be able to share a little bit about what this process looks like so that both you can understand it and support it in your congregation, but also so that you gain a deeper appreciation for exactly what God is doing in the lives of these people. So I know this process pretty well because I've been at it a long time, and I am on the Board of Ordained Ministry, which is the group of people tasked with the responsibility in our annual conference of examining candidates as they come into ministry. And it is an arduous process, and it is difficult at best. So today I want to start with my friend and your friend, Tosh Jenkins, and let Tosh tell us a little bit about where she is in the process, how she came to this process, and anything else she wants to share. Tosh.
Hey everyone. After my husband passed away, I was reminded that God had a call for ministry for me, and I wasn't really sure how to go about that. And I just prayed and asked God that if He would open a door, that I would be sure to walk through it. And it wasn't too much longer that Pastor Paul reached out to me, and he and I had a conversation. And I found myself crying, and for the first time admitting to someone else that I sensed a call to ministry. And I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I knew that I trusted that Pastor Paul was going to help lead me. And I soon found out that I was going to get hit by a 2x4. But I also found out that in addition to Pastor Paul, that there would be a congregation that would be there to support me, and also just the whole United Methodist Church supporting me. I'm currently at school at Asbury Theological Seminary, pursuing a Master of Divinity with emphasis in spiritual formation. And I feel really blessed to be a part of that process, but also be a part of the United Methodist Church.
And how long is that seminary degree going to take you, Tosh? What are you thinking?
Well, it's probably going to take me about 4 years, which is probably pretty aggressive for somebody that's a widow and someone with 5 kids. But on top of that, I have the ordination process, so I can't really slow walk it.
So once you get the seminary degree done, then you can apply for what's called commissioning in the United Methodist Church. She'll be commissioned, and then once she passes that, then she'll serve 3 years before she can then apply for a full connection or to be ordained an elder in the United Methodist Church. So this total process is about 7 to 8 years. Which seems crazy.
And I think it's important to remember, it also, that is given that you already have an undergraduate degree.
Even having done
that. And what Paul hasn't told you is he is actually the vice president of the Board of Ordained Ministry. It's kind of a big deal, in case you were wondering.
In my own mind, anyway.
Yeah, well, in his own world. And Paul and I have actually served together on the board. He left me out. He didn't tell you what a big deal I am. I'm hurt. But we actually have had the privilege, and sometimes a privilege, sometimes a curse of serving on the Board of Ministry for many years. I think I started serving on what we call a district committee back in 2003. So the Board of Ministry has all kinds of components. There's a district level and a conference level. Paul chairs the district for the Metro District, and I serve as a subcommittee chair on the Catawba Valley District. So from 2003 onward, I think I've either served on a district committee or on the conference board. So between the two of us, we've got a lot of war stories, but we've also have a lot of have had opportunities to encounter people like Tosh and Rod, who are going. Hey, Rod's here too, by the way.
Let's hear a little bit about Rod's path. Rod's path to ministry is certainly different than Tosh's, certainly different than mine, but nonetheless, Rod, tell us about yours.
Yeah, so this is my 4th church. It's not my first rodeo by any means, and I actually took a 10-year break from ministry. Really unsure if I was ever going to get back into ministry. or what that would even look like. And it wasn't until a somewhat providential lunch with Paul and another member of our church that I thought, I think I'm getting called back into ministry, and then even into local church ministry here at Huntersville United Methodist Church. So I'm on what they call the local pastor track, and I have some seminary in my background and obviously a lot of experience. So I'm on a track that will allow me to stay here at the church. I'm not really looking to go elsewhere at this point, so it'll give me that opportunity to serve.
You know you work
Yeah,
with, and you want to stay?
Well, the sign-on bonus. The sign-on bonus is what.
Oh yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Right. The parking spot.
That's right. Yeah.
So the idea is that once you're approved, we think in December, then you'll get an appointment as a local pastor to this congregation, where you'll then be able to do things like
Communion and baptisms and sacraments, I guess.
Yeah, the sacraments. And that assignment will be. And Steve, you've got a number of people who are in the ministry track in your church.
Right. So, and as Rod alluded to, there are different ways to move into ministry in our tradition. And local pastor is one, elder track is one. There's also what we call a deacon track, and that we have and deacons are ordained people. They are called to connect the church to the world. They serve in a slightly different capacity than elders, and they don't itinerate, or they don't move around. But we have a young lady at our church named Grace Kelly, who is in school right now, and she is doing her work through Union Theological Presbyterian Seminary out of Charlotte, which is an approved seminary for us, and she's in the deacon track. We also have on staff David Washko, who is on track to become what we call a certified lay minister, which also requires an approval from the district committee. And Ben Nobles, who's our director of student ministry, is in candidacy right now, meaning that he is in the period of time where he is discerning his call and what his next steps look like. And Ben is also starting seminary classes this fall as well at Asbury. And so we're excited about those things happening over at Denver, and about all three of those folks moving into ministry. What's interesting, I know we're about to wrap up because Paul talked too long earlier on, but the call to ministry can come at any place at any time.
Amen.
For Grace, for example, she received her call while she was an undergraduate, and she is in her mid-20s right now, stepping in more of a traditional route. For David Washko, he was later in life and approaching 50 years old when we started talking about his call to ministry. Ben is in his early 30s, and so people all along the spectrum hear that call. And I would just like to let you know where that first step is. If you feel like God's calling you into ministry, first of all, we're all called to ministry.
Yes.
You don't have to have a title, you don't have to have a seminary degree. God calls everyone into ministry. You are in ministry by virtue of your baptism into the church.
Amen.
Some are, however, set apart for ministries that help order the life of the church and serve the church in unique ways. If you feel like God has called you into a set-apart ministry, you start with a conversation with your pastor. You didn't even talk to this guy. I'm amazed that you two have found your way into ministry after talking with him.
I know.
And
He
I
called
think-
you.
Yeah, it's got to be God.
And I think one of the things that Steve and I would both affirm is one of the greatest legacies that we will leave when we're finally done is that God is still working in the lives of people like
Right.
Rod and Tosh and all of those folks that you mentioned at Denver, in that we will be handing over
Right.
the work of the church
And
to
also-
capable hands.
And I also failed to mention Mike Shawshaw, who is a member at Denver, who was our youth pastor previous to Ben Nobles. He is almost done with seminary.
Wow.
And he is in his third year at Duke Divinity School, and he will be coming up for commissioning before too long. So, and you're right, that's a great thing.
So we just wanted to give you a taste today of just maybe some words that you've heard and didn't really understand. We hope it's helpful as you participate as Tosh and Rod in our church and all those that Steve mentioned in his church, thank you for your time today. Thank you for listening in. We hope you're blessed, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.